Hi, my name is Lucio Simoni. I am the engineering manager for BC Group. In this video, we'll be demonstrating the SA-2600 safety analyzer. We'll show how to select and configure the AutoSequences, and also how to run the AutoSequence and view the test results at the end. To run an AutoSequence on the SA-2600, we press the AutoSequences button from the main menu. Here we can select either custom or fixed sequences. If we select any of the pre-programmed fixed sequences, we can see that it'll tell me exactly what tests are going to be run, but I can't change any options. I can't go in here and modify anything. Everything is pre-configured for me. I can run the test by pressing the right arrow, or I can go back to AutoSequences pressing the left arrow. If I pick a custom sequence, then we can see that by pressing any of the fields on the screen, we can easily change the options by pressing on any of the buttons to enable or disable that specific test. We can change the limits just by pressing on the number and entering the values that we want to use. The measurement delay is meant for when we're turning on a device. That's the time that it's going to take to get past the startup screen, any welcome messages or anything like that on the device under test, so that we can make sure that it's in a ready running state before we take any measurements. We can pick the AMI or IEC test roll-off filter. This is the high frequency filter for the safety analyzer. And then we can also select whether or not we want to repeat the testing with the device off. By default, we always test with it on first and then off in the second set. So if we don't want to repeat testing with the device off, we select no. And if we do want to repeat the testing, then we select yes. So now in order to start this test, I'll press the right arrow, or I'll go back to the main screen. I'd like to show you another setting before we do that. We have an option over here for DUT line power. So some devices, when you apply line power to them, they turn on automatically. They have a rocker switch or some hardwired power switch. Other devices like this monitor that we have here, when I apply line power to the monitor, it doesn't turn on. It's sitting in a standby mode, it's ready to go, but it doesn't turn on until I press a button. So for these types of devices, we need to select that it's a standby device. If the device turned on automatically with line power, I would select on. What that's going to do is when I'm running the test, the SA-2600 is going to stop and it's going to alert me that I need to turn on my DUT by pressing the power button. And if we press on the question button, it explains all of this information right on the screen as well. So now I'm going to select that custom sequence that we just made, and we're going to start that test. Now we can enter information about that device under test directly here on the screen by pressing any of these fields and typing in the information, or we can just proceed to the test. The first step that it does is the resistance, ground resistance, and you'll notice that it turned my DUT off. And that's why it's really important to select the proper screen, the setup mode for power on the previous screen, because I need to tell it whether or not I need to turn on the device under test manually. Now to zero the test leads, I'll connect my chassis cable to the earth ground on the receptacle, just like it has shown on the screen. Once that reading stabilizes, I'll press zero leads. And that will give me a zero reading for the cable and any internal resistance on the SA-2600. Then I can reconnect to the device under test. The next screen tells me go ahead and make my connections. I've got the patient leads connected, I've got the power plugged in, and the chassis connected to the earth ground on the back of the device under test. Every AutoSequence will start with a line voltage test and then the earth resistance measurement. And here's the message telling me that I need to turn on the DUT. So If I had selected on for the power type, it would just continue on with the testing, assuming that the device had turned on when I told it to, or when it applied power to the receptacle. So now I can manually turn on the device, and this is that startup delay. We can see the power up delay is running in the background. That gives the device under test a little bit of time to get past its startup screen, and it's in its normal run mode before we take a measurement. And now it's ready for the other test modes. It moved on to doing the earth leakage, the enclosure leakage. All of the measurements that I had selected in the AutoSequence configuration screen are now being performed. As soon as it gets to a point where it's going to turn power back onto the device, it will prompt me again to turn it on. So it applied power, hot and neutral are both closed. In this case, we have reverse polarity, and it's telling me you need to turn on your device under test, and then press continue. And that power delay is counting down again to get past the startup screen on my device under test. At any time, I can press stop to cancel the test and stop right where it's at. It'll show me all of the measurements that were taken. We can see anything that is over the limit that we had set is in red. Anything that was not tested, because I stopped the test, also shows up in red, and it says NT for not tested. Any of the options that were not enabled show up as gray, and they'll say off for the measurement because that was turned off. At the top, we'll see set 1, that's for when power was on, and data set 2 was with the power turned off, which we didn't get to because I stopped the test. And at this point, I could export this data to my BC Mobile, or I can go back to the main screen to start another test.
Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or would like further information, please contact us at 800-242-8428, or for international calls, be sure and dial the +1 for the U.S. 314-638-3800, or you can email us at sales@bcgroupintl.com. For more information about our extensive line of BC biomedical products and other vendor alliances, browse BC Marketplace, located at bcgroupstore.com.